Don't call another human being Your Highness. You're complaining about your hard life, and you're so privileged. Just so weird.
Wasn't there some speculation that she was on Epstein's yacht at one point in time? There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s.
She is a malignant narcissist who cannot get enough of herself while she simultaneously plays the victim. My castle? The queen is mean to me. They won't let me call myself Her Royal Highness anymore, but I'm going to put it all over my stationery and on the gifts that I give to my friends.
There are times we get together and I'm like, I just want to have DoorDash come in. And you're like, let's make some. And I'm like,
no, I don't want to cook again, Meghan. My God, take a break.
I can just show up. I can put good work out there.
That's very weird.
And she also is pretending that she's crying. We zoomed in just to see. There isn't a tear in sight. Dan, look at this. I invite the viewers to take a close-up look at this. Where's the tear?
Reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
No! I refuse. I'm sick of it.
I don't like her.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Everybody who works for her quits. Everybody says she's a bully. She's very nasty.
He's called Meghan Markle nasty and says he feels sorry for Prince Harry because his wife is a lot to deal with.
Not only is she incredibly controlling, but she's a bitch about it to everybody who works for her. When things inevitably start spiraling downward, she blames everyone but herself.
But you're the same.
you're the same.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, guys, you don't gotta do this. Please, I'm begging you to stop.
Joe Rogan didn't just throw shade, he ignited a firestorm. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, the world's most downloaded podcaster took a brutal jab at Meghan Markle, casually referring to her as the dumbest Duchess. It was quick, off the cuff, but the reaction, instant and explosive. The clip ripped through social media like wildfire, racking up millions of views, stitches, and duets. And while Rogan laughed it off in real time, sources say Meghan Markle was absolutely fuming behind the scenes.
When the stakes are this high, doesn't it make more sense to hear our story from us?
Oh, shut up. What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? Other than a latte-munching imbecile living in luxury in California while the rest of the world's a cost of living crisis, moaning and whining about an institution which gave you the titles on which you now trade millions of dollars. What are you talking about? What stakes?
This wasn't just another offhand celebrity roast. This hit different, because this time, Meghan's team might actually be preparing to respond. According to whispers coming out of Montecito, Meghan was not expecting this level of public mockery right as she's been trying to rehab her image. And now, her reps are allegedly discussing next steps. The words legal counsel have even been floated in some circles. Why? Because while Meghan's been endlessly criticized in tabloids and online forums before, it's rare for someone as high profile, and as unfiltered, as Rogan to go this far in front of that many people. Millions heard it. Millions laughed. And Meghan apparently didn't find it funny at all. And here's where it gets really messy. This viral moment didn't just trend because of what was said. It trended because of who said it. Joe Rogan isn't some anonymous internet troll. He's arguably the most influential voice in podcasting, with fans that span every demographic. His platform is a cultural megaphone. So when he drops a line like that, calling Meghan Markle the dumbest Duchess, it lands hard. Not just with his audience, but with her critics, her fans, and maybe most of all, with Meghan herself.
But they're not supposed to make any money off of being a member of the royal family, and yet they've trademarked apparently sort of their brand, Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and they're not allowed to make any money off of the royal family. So they're given allotments, allowances, living expenses.
How much?
It's a significant amount.
And let's be honest, this might have been the last thing she needed right now, because just days before this jab aired, Meghan had launched her so-called raw, makeup-free podcast appearance in what many believed was a desperate move to shift the narrative. She wanted authenticity. She wanted sympathy. What she got instead was a new nickname from Joe Rogan that may stick longer than any of her carefully branded talking points. And that's just the beginning. Behind palace gates or not, the one thing Meghan Markle has never lacked is a team. PR experts, legal consultants, image strategists, every move is calculated. But according to insiders this time, they were caught off guard. Multiple outlets are reporting that Meghan's inner circle was blindsided by Rogan's insult, and the behind-the-scenes response has been anything but calm. Allegedly, high-level conversations are already underway about whether to issue a formal statement, push back quietly through media allies, or even escalate legally. And while Meghan's camp hasn't gone public yet, the language being tossed around in private reportedly includes words like defamation, malicious intent, and character assassination. It's not just that Rogan insulted her, it's when and how he did it. Meghan has been in overdrive lately trying to reset her public persona. After months of relative silence, she recently re-emerged in a carefully staged podcast appearance with Jamie Kern Lima. No makeup, casual outfit, heartfelt stories. She was clearly trying to recast herself as the real Meghan, not the Duchess, not the brand, just a woman, a wife, and a mother. But with one careless insult, Rogan cut straight through the rebranding attempt, and the internet seemed to side with him. What's worse?
It's tending to the soil. It's the foundation. It's what everything is going to grow out of.
She really murdered that metaphor, didn't she? It went on and on and on. And this is one of the things that I think she hasn't quite grasped, is that if you raise an idea, just raise it really crisply. She just goes on.
This isn't just about damage control, it's about precedent. Because Meghan's team knows exactly what this moment could trigger. If someone as mainstream as Rogan can mock her that blatantly, what's to stop other high-profile names from piling on next? It sets a tone, one that might embolden other critics, influencers, even comedians to take similar jabs. And for someone whose entire brand is now tied to relatability, empathy, and social awareness, that's a serious threat. There's also the risk of appearing too sensitive. If Meghan lashes out publicly, she risks looking like she can't take a joke. But if she stays silent, it might read as weakness, or worse, confirmation. That's the PR nightmare. She's trapped between fighting back and feeding the fire. And as one Hollywood publicist reportedly put it, if she doesn't play this perfectly, it could unravel everything she's trying to rebuild. And let's not forget, Meghan's trying to re-enter the public arena with new projects, a lifestyle brand, and fresh media deals. If the vibe around her turns toxic again, those deals, they could be in trouble. Joe Rogan's words didn't just sting. They might have struck a pressure point Meghan's team hoped no one would touch. The irony? Meghan was supposed to be having a moment. Just days before the Rogan comment went viral, she stepped into the spotlight for what was billed as her rawest, most authentic interview ever. A sit-down on the Jamie Kern Lima podcast. No makeup, no script. Just Meghan, in her words, unfiltered. It was positioned as a new chapter, one where the Duchess would finally shed the titles, the drama, the media frenzy, and just speak as herself.
She was doing something on Instagram. So I ordered some pie on Instacart.
It doesn't even make sense.
I'm going to make Meghan a charcuterie tray, which I just learned that word a few years ago.
Charcuterie tray for Meghan Markle. My God. She's bored with food on it. That then goes bad.
It was planned from the beginning. She denied being interested in the royal family, which she totally was. I know someone who knows the ex-husband who said she had a vision board with Prince Harry on it.
That's not a skill. Go cook it. Don't just buy a bunch of stuff and put it on a board pretty. That's not a skill.
But the question on everyone's mind after watching it wasn't, is this the real Meghan? It was, who's she trying to fool? Because from the second the video dropped, critics pounced. Yes, Meghan teared up. Yes, she shared personal stories about Harry, her kids, and the challenges of motherhood. But even her vulnerability felt produced. Camera angles, the lighting, the polished setting, it all screamed controlled. And while Jamie Kern Lima heaped on praise with every emotional beat, gushing over Meghan's strength, wisdom, and grace, the internet wasn't buying it. Comments across X, Reddit, and YouTube lit up with disbelief. No makeup? One user joked. Yeah, sure. No makeup and a full glam team off camera. One moment in particular had people rolling their eyes. Meghan described how she sends nightly emails to her children using secret email addresses she'll give them when they're older. It was supposed to be touching, but online, the response was brutal. What is this, a Hallmark movie? Another user wrote. Even her tearful laughter, this is why it's nice not to have makeup on, she joked, sparked backlash. Many felt the whole performance was less about sincerity and more about optics. And that's the part Meghan's team may have underestimated, because when you sell an interview as unfiltered, but it looks, sounds, and feels like a PR campaign, people notice. The buzzword was authenticity, but the vibe? All branding. Critics started calling it the Meghan Show all over again, another carefully curated peek behind the curtain where the lighting is perfect, the tears are timed, and every moment feels more like strategy than sincerity. And Joe Rogan, he saw it too.
Meghan talk about Harry and how much of a fox he is.
He's also a fox, if you haven't noticed. My husband's very, very handsome.
I mean, have you ever heard somebody have to try so hard to be like, put it out there?
I'm not buying it.
Insiders say his dumbest Duchess jab wasn't just random. It came right on the heels of this podcast rollout. His comment wasn't about a headline. It was a response to Meghan's entire presentation. Her attempt to come off real and relatable made her, in Rogan's view, even more ripe for parody. And judging by the internet's reaction, a lot of people seem to agree. If Meghan's podcast episode was meant to be her redemption arc, the internet had other plans. From the moment it dropped, social media lit up with reactions that ranged from skeptical to outright savage. Hashtags like Meghan Markle PR and crocodile tears started trending as users dissected every pause, every sniffle, every wide-eyed moment for signs of inauthenticity. On X, one post went viral zooming in on Meghan's tearful face, sarcastically asking, "Can anyone spot an actual tear?" Another quipped, "The only thing raw here is the audience's patience." And it didn't stop there. Meghan's casual delivery of her now infamous, "I email my kids every night" monologue became meme fodder within hours. Commenters mocked the idea of a Duchess curled up with a cup of tea, typing love notes to anonymous inboxes for future teenage children. "This isn't sweet," one user snapped. "Branding disguised as bonding." Even her line about Prince Harry being so handsome drew side eyes. Is that supposed to be relatable, or just another reminder that she bagged a prince? One post read, racking up thousands of likes. The platform pile-on was brutal. Reddit threads popped up questioning everything from Meghan's facial expressions to the lighting in the interview. Was it really no makeup, or just no visible makeup? Who filmed it? Why did every frame look like a Vogue shoot if this was supposed to be stripped down? The answer, for many, was obvious.
Wow. It is interesting how she's exposing her as a yacht girl, someone who was paid off by rich men to go and hang out.
This wasn't vulnerability, it was choreography. And let's not forget the reactions to her co-star, Jamie Kern-Lima. What should have been a moment of mutual empowerment between women instead turned into a joint PR spiral. Lima's constant gasps and praise, "You're incredible. That was so powerful. Your eyes are sparkling," became their own punchline. Critics labeled her the cheerleader-in-chief, accusing her of enabling Meghan's self-congratulatory monologue rather than challenging or deepening the conversation. One ex-user wrote, "This was less of a podcast and more of a pep rally with lighting." In a digital age where viewers crave messiness, contradiction, and imperfection, Meghan's performance hit the wrong note. She wanted realness. She got receipts. And the moment Joe Rogan tossed out that biting insult, it was like the entire internet collectively exhaled. Finally, someone had said what they were all thinking. The dumbest Duchess line wasn't just an insult. It was a punchline to a setup Meghan had unknowingly written for herself. This isn't the first time Meghan's public image strategy has backfired, but it might be the most high-profile collapse yet. For years, she's walked a tightrope between royalty and celebrity, leveraging titles while trying to shed the monarchy's baggage. But if you trace the pattern, it's clear that every time Meghan tries to reset the narrative, the internet responds with sharper skepticism. And this latest podcast push, it wasn't just a rebrand, it was a full-blown Hail Mary, because after her $20 million Spotify deal was unceremoniously scrapped, and her Netflix docuseries got shredded by critics, the pressure to win back the public was louder than ever. Remember Archetypes? Meghan's original podcast was marketed as unfiltered, feminist, and groundbreaking, finally giving her the microphone on her own terms. But even that turned sour fast. While it landed A-list guests like Serena Williams and Mariah Carey, the show quickly became known for being overly scripted, self-centered, and strangely devoid of actual authenticity.
Oh, I think you got it so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like, Meghan, one tear, left eye, go. Give me 3 seconds.
You could do this with one small row for your kids for breakfast, genuinely, and it makes the morning a lot more fun.
Listeners pointed out how Meghan's voice always sounded just a little too rehearsed. Stories, conveniently timed, the emotion, dialed to 11, and the overall tone, less curiosity, more coronation. And when Spotify quietly pulled the plug in 2023, there was no grand farewell, just silence. Industry insiders whispered that Meghan didn't deliver on what was promised, while critics labeled the show a self-congratulatory snooze fest. The final verdict, glossy but empty, a PR campaign in podcast clothing, which is why this latest attempt to present herself as a down-to-earth, emotionally raw mother of two came off as déjà vu. We've seen this movie before, and audiences were already rolling their eyes before Rogan dropped his now infamous insult. What's worse is that Meghan's brand strategy hasn't evolved, it's just shifted packaging. From royal renegade to Netflix narrator to no makeup podcaster, every pivot seems engineered to provoke sympathy while keeping her in control of the narrative, and people are tired of it. The messaging always centers on how misunderstood she is, how hard she works, how much she's been through. But then reports surface showing she allegedly logs 1 hour of work per week, and the whole house of cards starts to wobble. So when Joe Rogan casually called her the dumbest Duchess, it wasn't just a jab, it was a release. The public was already annoyed, already suspicious, already exhausted by the emotional gymnastics. His comment, rude as it may have been, said out loud what many were thinking but hadn't dared post. And now Meghan's left facing a brutal question. Can she still control her own story, or has the audience finally tuned her out? This wasn't Joe Rogan's first dig, and it almost certainly won't be his last. Because when it comes to Meghan Markle, Rogan's pattern is clear. He doesn't respect the act, and he's not afraid to say so. Long before the dumbest Duchess comment blew up, Rogan had already mocked Meghan on multiple occasions, often lumping her into conversations about celebrity narcissism, performative victimhood, and what he sees as the hollow shell of modern royalty. And his audience? They eat it up. Meghan isn't just a random punchline in Rogan's world. She's a symbol of everything he thinks is wrong with curated fame. But this most recent insult landed with a different kind of punch. It wasn't said during some half-buried side conversation. It was deliberate, targeted, and timed, coming right on the heels of Meghan's podcast PR Blitz. Whether Rogan planned it or just went off instinct, the effect was devastating. The internet exploded, the headlines followed, and suddenly Meghan's carefully crafted vulnerability tour became the butt of the week's biggest joke. And the cruel irony? Rogan didn't even need to say more than 3 words. So why does he keep going there? Part of it is simple. Meghan is polarizing. She's famous, she's controversial, and no matter what she does, she sparks conversation. In the world of podcasting and viral soundbites, she's pure gold. But there's another layer here too, one that hits closer to the core. Rogan seems to see Meghan as emblematic of a deeper cultural shift, one where fame is earned not through talent or struggle, but through curated victimhood and algorithmic sympathy. And when someone like Meghan tries to frame herself as real while sitting on a multi-million-dollar Montecito estate, that's exactly the kind of contradiction Rogan loves to rip apart. And he's not alone.
40 minutes into the podcast, little picture, quite a grainy picture flashed up, which shows a basket of, homemade preserves with a card on it, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan.
I find it a little bit cringe to give a gift to a close friend and sign it Her Royal Highness.
Megyn Kelly, Dave Portnoy, Piers Morgan, and a rotating cast of social commentators have all taken their shots. What's different is that Rogan doesn't sound bitter or obsessed. He sounds amused, detached, like he's watching the whole Meghan saga unfold from the sidelines, and can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. And that's what makes it sting even more. For Meghan, this isn't just criticism, it's mockery. Public, viral, mainstream mockery. Because let's be honest, when a comedian goes after you, you can brush it off. When a political pundit critiques you, you can spin it. But when Joe Rogan, the guy millions of men and women treat like their unfiltered best friend, calls you out casually, as if it's so obvious it doesn't even need unpacking, that hits different. That tells the public it's safe to laugh at you now. And once that gate opens, it's hard to shut. It's the branding strategy Meghan just can't shake. Victimhood as identity, vulnerability as marketing. Over the past few years, Meghan Markle has crafted a public image that hinges on being misunderstood, mistreated, and perpetually on the verge of a new beginning. From Oprah to Spotify to Netflix to this latest tear-streaked podcast rollout, the narrative has remained strikingly consistent. I've been through so much, and now I'm finally telling my truth. Critics say that truth? Starting to feel suspiciously rehearsed. Because when the emotion always shows up perfectly timed and every anecdote leads straight to applause, audiences begin to question the authenticity behind the message. Was that story about emailing her kids nightly a touching reveal, or a calculated attempt to look more relatable? Was the no-makeup look a sign of raw courage, or a very expensive glam team's idea of what natural should look like on camera? More and more people are starting to believe the latter, and they're not quiet about it. This is where the backlash really kicks in. Once a public figure is seen as playing the victim, even genuine moments start to lose their impact. And Meghan's critics are capitalizing on that perception. They argue that every time she opens up about her struggles, it's less about sharing pain and more about bolstering the brand, whether that's selling a lifestyle label, promoting a podcast, or paving the way for another multi-million-dollar media deal. The vulnerability they claim is a means to an end. The problem? The audience is growing wise to it. Online forums are full of breakdowns and timelines showing how Meghan's emotional moments always align with upcoming launches or media appearances. One Reddit thread pointed out that every time public opinion dips, Meghan suddenly reemerges with a fresh confession and a soft filtered close-up. It's like clockwork, one user wrote. She doesn't do interviews, she does damage control, and Joe Rogan's comment, mean-spirited as it may seem, cut right through that pattern. By calling her the dumbest Duchess, he didn't just question her intelligence. He mocked the entire performance. He stripped away the sympathy, the spin, calculated softness, and held up a mirror to what many see as a manipulative media strategy. And now, with that single phrase, he's ignited a much larger conversation. Is Meghan genuinely misunderstood, or has she just mastered the art of playing perpetual underdog?
And this was one of the most every mother out there will understand. She wants us to put together a crudité board for our children in the morning. Now, look, Maureen, look at this.
Can't.
And now the gloves are coming off, with Rogan's comment still echoing across headlines. Industry insiders, royal commentators, and even some alleged former staffers are speaking out, and what they're saying isn't pretty. Alexander Larman, a frequent royal critic, called Meghan's emotional display on the podcast despicable and a masterclass in self-promotion masquerading as self-reflection. His harshest line? That the Duchess's tears were more about staying relevant than telling the truth. Watch closely, he said during a recent appearance. There's no tear, not a single one. It's acting. And not very good acting at that. Social media echoed the sentiment with even sharper barbs. The term crocodile tears surged on X as users shared zoom-ins, GIFs, and screen grabs accusing Meghan of weaponizing emotion for attention. And it wasn't just faceless accounts piling on. Jamie Kern-Lima, podcast host meant to guide this raw moment, also found herself under fire. Her relentlessly glowing praise, tearful mirroring, and theatrical gasps drew comparisons to a stage production rather than an intimate interview. She's not a host, one viral tweet read. She's a hype woman, and it's cringe. Then came the whispers from behind the scenes. Alleged former employees at Archewell and Montecito-based production outfits have long painted a less than flattering picture of working under Meghan's watch. Reports describe a high-pressure environment where staff burned out quickly, quitting in tears, exhausted by impossible expectations and what some labeled as performative leadership. Now, in the wake of this new backlash, those stories are gaining traction again, shared in comments, quoted in think pieces, even turned into TikToks dissecting Meghan's leadership style like a corporate case study. But perhaps the most damning reactions are coming from within Hollywood itself. Celebrity chef James Stack, who's worked with royalty and turned down a role on Meghan's Netflix series, told the New York Post he didn't even need to see the full show to know it would flop. His words, "It's just bad, forced, painful to watch. She should go back to acting, because at least that's something she's good at. Ouch." Even Variety and Vulture piled on, calling Meghan's Netflix series a syrupy ego trip and a deranged voyage into the center of nothing. That kind of language doesn't come lightly. Signals that what started as a backlash may now be crystallizing into a larger media consensus. That the curated vulnerability isn't just falling flat, it's becoming a liability. Which brings us back to Rogan. He wasn't the first to question Meghan's authenticity, but he may have been the first to do it so bluntly, so publicly, and with so much cultural weight behind him. And in doing so, he's cracked something open. Meghan may still have supporters, but among industry voices, the silence is growing louder. The jokes are getting meaner, and the tolerance for her narrative, once treated with at least some reverence, is evaporating. So now the question isn't what did Joe Rogan say, it's what Meghan Markle does next. Because this moment, it might force her hand.
Trouble with Meghan is that to become relatable, you have to be authentic to start with. So she's not hitting the authentic point, so then she's not getting the relatability, and then she's not getting the likability. There was a skit about the fact, well, you know, all Britain will insist upon is that America keeps Harry and Meghan, that they're not coming back.
So far, there's been no official response, no strongly worded statement, no surprise interview to set the record straight. But insiders say that silence may not last much longer. Allegedly, Meghan's PR team is weighing whether to push back publicly or let the internet cycle burn itself out. But with clips of Rogan's jab still making the rounds and dumbest Duchess already morphing into a meme, the clock is ticking, and fast. Some believe Meghan will choose silence, that she'll let her next public appearance, likely another hyper-curated, authentic moment, speak for itself. Strategy she's used before. Ignore the storm, double down on the brand, and hope the narrative resets. But others aren't so sure this time. With her upcoming ventures under increasing scrutiny and her credibility once again in question, doing nothing could signal weakness. Worse, it could confirm the growing suspicion that Meghan's PR playbook is out of touch and out of moves. But here's where things get even murkier. Legal threats have allegedly been floated behind the scenes, not directly at Rogan, but toward media outlets amplifying his insult. There's chatter that Meghan's team is preparing a defamation framework just in case the insult spirals into something even more damaging. But even if that's true, it's a risky move. Because publicly challenging Rogan could trigger exactly what she wants to avoid. More backlash, more ridicule, and even more sound bites from a man who thrives on doubling down. And let's be real, Rogan isn't known for apologizing. If Meghan's team fires back, he's far more likely to roast her again than walk it back. That dynamic alone is why some insiders are reportedly urging caution. Meghan is used to controlling the room, the tone, the narrative, but Rogan, he is the room. And with millions of fiercely loyal listeners, any response that feels overreaching could backfire in spectacular fashion. So what happens next? Best case scenario for Meghan, she pivots fast, releases a new video, reclaims the conversation, and finds a way to turn the narrative into something empowering. Worst case, she says nothing, the memes get worse, and her next attempt at relatability is drowned out before it even begins. Because whether she likes it or not, Dumbest Duchess is already etched into the cultural lexicon, and unless she plays this perfectly, it's going to stick. And this might be the moment everything shifts. Meghan Markle has weathered bad press before. Tabloid takedowns, royal fallouts, broken deals. But this feels different, because the sting isn't just from what Joe Rogan said, it's from how easily it landed. 1 offhand insult, 3 casual words, and the entire internet erupted. Not in outrage, not in defense, but in laughter. That's what cuts the deepest. The Duchess didn't just get mocked, she got memed. She became the punchline to a cultural joke that's been building for years. And that shift matters, because when someone becomes a punchline, the rules change. They lose control. Every move gets interpreted through that lens. Every tear looks faker. Every statement sounds scripted. Every raw appearance feels like a performance. And Meghan? She's teetering right on that edge. The more she tries to present herself as the misunderstood underdog, the more people seem to see her as the main character in a story she keeps rewriting, and not always convincingly. What's at stake now isn't just her image, it's her influence. Hollywood, the media, even her remaining fan base are watching closely. Is she adaptable, or is she stuck in a formula that no longer works? Will she evolve, or will she double down on a narrative that fewer and fewer people believe? Meghan built her brand on story, on reframing herself through struggle, resilience, and